3, 2, 1. Dun dun dun! The return of CTS PC. It's episode 53.
It's been a minute.
We're back after Henry stopped
Extended
stalling.
hiatus. Yeah.
He refused
crazy.
to continue the podcast.
We're back though. No worries. Stop freaking out. Calm down. Our loyal viewers, all 10 of you.
Can you imagine? There was probably someone just checking every week. This one random person. They're like, oh, no episode today.
The only person that listens. What's going on? I haven't seen anything on any of their social medias. What the? Okay. Okay, we're back though. Calm down. Stop freaking out. Okay. What's going on in the world of politics, Jace?
Oh, let me tell you. So we'll start off with this because I think it's super interesting, and I don't think you know about it. So there's been Merrick Garland, who's the DOJ head, the Attorney General.
That's the one they blocked that was supposed to get appointed to the Supreme Court, right? Yeah.
So he's been testifying in front of Congress these past couple weeks. I think it's over now, though. And the Republicans have been just eviscerating him for a memo that he sent out regarding parents at school board meetings. So have you seen any of those videos of parents freaking out at school board meetings
over COVID stuff, like masks and stuff?
Or critical race theory?
Yeah.
So the School Board Association sent this letter to the DOJ, which was an insane letter. I mean, I'm going to try to be as I'll try to explain it as unbiased as possible, but that being said, it was an insane letter. It essentially said these parents were domestic terrorists, compared them to, a lot of people have been comparing them to the people at the January 6th riots. They've been saying, all of these crazy things. School Board Association sends the memo to the Biden administration. Biden administration says DOJ investigate this. 5 days later, the DOJ releases a memo saying, we're going to use all of the resources at the DOJ to investigate this claim and, see if there's any standing. They start investigating. They set up a FBI hotline for parents.
Yeah.
They use the, I believe it's the National Security Group at the FBI. They use FBI agents, DOJ. It's all out there. And they're saying parents, this is what the Republicans are saying. They think that the DOJ essentially said parents were going to come for you. Fast forward later, School Board Association retracts their letter after 18 states withdraw their support for the National School Board Association.
That's the quickest way to
just
get them to
completely
retract something.
shut them down. Bunch of states do it. I don't know if it was quite 18, but it was quite a few states.
Seems a very specific number.
I know.
To just on the spot.
So
yeah, 16 and a half.
Yeah. So they retract the letter. Merrick Garland comes under fire by Republicans because he's essentially, sending the government out to what the Republicans say is to attack parents who are, criticizing liberal policy. Merrick Garland's defense, and I think his defense is reasonable. It doesn't say anywhere in the letter that they're trying to, that they don't want avid speech or avid debate in school board meetings. They don't, I don't believe they specifically say, they may actually in the memo say, everyone has free speech rights, where he says they're not going to prosecute them. But the Republicans' talking point is you don't, you sent the memo. You're going to chill that speech. You're going to chill that debate because all these parents are going to be scared of what they say or do because you used language in the report that was super vague. You said intimidate or harass school board members and you're going to be prosecuted for it. And it's parents don't know the difference between where that line is for intimidation and harassment. And, legally it's if you make threats is typically when you get done in. But parents don't know that. So The Republicans are saying, you're using all of the government's resources, including the like anti-terrorism unit, the national security unit, and coming after parents. You're essentially quelling that speech. You're scaring parents and turning them away. Obviously, the DOJ is completely rejecting that notion, but I'm kind of with the Republicans a little bit, which is pretty rare. I'm like, if you're gonna send out a memo, and you're like 5 days, all of this media attention is on you. 5 days after the Biden administration asks you to do it, you immediately do it. And it's attacking conservative parents. Those are the parents that typically conservative parents. And it's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have sent that memo.
Well, it's weird to go it seems over the top. The response seems a little bit over the top. Like, I've seen those videos. Like, some of them are crazy, but for the most part, it's just like parents standing up saying dumb stuff and like kind of shouting at the school board, and then they leave.
And it's not to say that it's not happening, because it is happening. Like, parents are definitely threatening school board members, and they should go to jail. I mean, you shouldn't be allowed to threaten people. And the Republicans said that, like, you can't do that. We're all against that type of violence. But when you send out a memo that says we're going to come after you for intimidation and harassment.
Like, what's intimidation? Like, is me criticizing them intimidation?
Yeah, or is me saying something rude about them online on social media? Is that intimidation?
Where's the line? Yeah.
Right.
No.
And legally, there is a line. You can't, they're not going to prosecute a case they know they're going to lose, but parents don't know what the line is. And so there's a big exchange between one of the Republican senators and the Merrick Garland. And he was like, we both know that what the criteria are for intimidation and harassment. And the senator goes, yeah, me and you know, but the parents don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
So that's what was weird to me, is like, okay, you're going to use the national security, group
like
of
domestic
the FBI.
terrorism. It doesn't seem like it comes to that level.
Yeah. And one of the DOJ's defenses was like, this is happening everywhere. Like, just Google it. It's happening everywhere. It's like, no, it's not. So the Republicans pulled up like a list, and like, I think they found like 13 instances nationwide.
Yeah.
There's like 350 million people in the country, and they found like 13.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, send those people to jail, but you are chilling this speech, literally chilling the speech, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's pretty crazy. Did you see Biden the other day called Kamala Harris President Harris?
Oh, he does it all the time. I feel like that's not the first time.
I don't know. I just saw the most recent one, and I was laughing because I know both of our thoughts on Kamala Harris are not the most positive.
Yeah. And sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, but it was just funny, the response, because Republicans were like, "Oh my gosh, Biden, like, he's clearly like mentally unfit, like how do you call her President Harris and whatever," and saying that, and that response seems crazy. But then a bunch of people on the left were like, what, so now you're gonna freak out now that he does it when you didn't freak out when like Trump called like Tim Apple in the meeting and whatever, which I think is so funny because it's like, but like the left freaked out when Trump
both sides are freaking out.
did that stuff. So you don't, like, I get if you didn't care when Trump did it to come out and say, hey, Biden's fine, like whatever, but you don't get to go, well, how come you didn't freak out when Trump did it, when simultaneously you're giving Biden a pass and freaked out when Trump did it. It's dumb. It seems pretty hypocritical from both sides.
Dude, Biden's approval rating is shot right now.
Yeah,
it's really bad, and
super
so is
low.
Kamala Harris's.
Yeah,
and part of it is because Biden, if you remember, he said he like openly told people that they wouldn't have to worry about their student debt, and the administration said a couple days ago that payments are going to resume.
Yeah, well, and like all the criticism about like COVID response, and COVID really hasn't gotten like that much better. Like, aside from stuff that was already going on, like before his administration started, like vaccines were already rolling out. There hasn't been significant improvements other than like that original like Project Warp Speed stuff. And so, yeah, it's crazy how low his approval ratings are for somebody that went in like as the most popular president.
have me and you, since we last did the podcast, have we talked about Kyle Rittenhouse?
I don't think so. I think it's been.
Think so either.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Kyle Rittenhouse, innocent on all charges. On all charges.
Because they dropped. Because weren't they trying to charge him with like? Because there were the 5.
There was like a curfew charge, an illegal possession of a firearm charge.
The
murder charge.
The curfew charge is insane. Like that was even being pursued at all.
That
at
one
first.
got dropped. Yeah.
Yeah, it got dropped, but it's still like kind of set the tone for the trial that they were even pursuing that when he was like the whole thing stemmed from an altercation with a massive group of people. So are you going to round up every single one of those people and charge them with like that same curfew charge? I just think that set the tone. So didn't go very well.
What'd you think? Did you agree with the verdict?
I think that it was no, I think it was like pretty clear what the verdict was going to be, like right from the outset.
So do you agree with it?
See that?
Do you agree with what the jury said? Not guilty?
I think in this case probably.
Okay. Straight answer.
Let's
go. That's Pog.
But how bad was the prosecution?
Well, I mean, that's why I would agree. Like, that's the reason I agree with the verdict.
Yeah.
Is because it's not necessarily that I think he was innocent. Because I think it's... The thing is, the prosecution, first of all, like, the biggest mistake they made was charging him with what they did. Those charges, they were silly. And the murder charge was silly. You can't charge him with murder. Because if you go with involuntary manslaughter, or voluntary manslaughter, there's no self-defense claim. You can't claim self-defense in a voluntary manslaughter case.
I think you probably can.
No, you can't. I promise you can't. I watched a whole thing about it. I promise. It may be involuntary. It may be voluntary. I'm not sure. But you can't claim self-defense on a manslaughter charge. So Kyle Rittenhouse gets charged with manslaughter. I think they win that almost every single time. And this is in that state. I don't know if it's the same in Utah, but whatever state that was, Wisconsin. So I think if they charge him with manslaughter, I think that they get a conviction. They charged him with... I think they probably could. I think the jury probably could still have charged him with reckless endangerment of public. I think is what he was charged with, because and I was watching like what's it called, a response video to the trial of someone, and it was a lawyer, and he was saying like, and I actually agreed with what he was saying. It's like, he was shooting bullets into the crowd. He was defending himself, but he was just shooting, and there were several bullets that didn't hit, and like several bullets were just going astray. And so his argument was, I think he probably could have been charged guilty with reckless endangerment of the public, given he brought a gun there, given all these other circumstances. There were several bullets that could have gone astray and just killed anybody, but they happened not to. So I think that probably could have been a guilty charge.
That seems pretty difficult, though, because if you say he's not charged with murder because it was self-defense,
well, that's what I'm saying. You don't charge him with murder, but you charge him with that, or you charge him with these other. You don't give him the murder charge, right? But because if you come back with a self-defense, verdict on the murder charge, essentially all these other charges are rolled out, right? So I would say that I agree with the not guilty on the murder charge. I think it was pretty clear there was at least elements of self-defense, but I also think he shouldn't have brought a gun there, and I don't think he had any right play acting as a police officer. So I don't know. It's kind of I'm kind of on the side of like, yeah, he probably should have gotten a successful guilty charge somewhere in there, but the prosecution was so bad. This was the worst prosecution I think I've ever watched.
Because
I watched a lot of the court proceedings.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of trials to judge it, but yeah, it seemed the prosecutor seemed pretty incompetent in this one.
Well, and the judge was also pretty bad. Like, I kind of get the left's criticism of the judge. He did make some weird decisions, like not allowing him to revert to the assailants as victims. I was like, yeah, I think you can probably refer to them as victims. They're dead. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
That one kind of makes sense to me in the sense that if you refer to them as victims, it's already, because if you are going for a self-defense charge, then they're attackers. They're not victims. Like, you don't get to be called victims if you're attacking him.
Yeah, but the defense doesn't get to direct the dialogue, right? The defense doesn't, and I don't think the judge should either. I think the judge should stay out of whatever diction the prosecution or defense decides to use.
Yeah.
I think, like, because you have to, if you look at it from the prosecution's perspective, they believe Kyle is guilty of murder, so they're going to call the assailants victims. And the defense believes Kyle acted in self-defense, so he's going to call the assailants. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a wash. But if you remember during the trial, one crazy thing is that the prosecution brought up Kyle's refusal to speak after he was arrested, which is like big no-no, right? Because of the Fourth Amendment.
The Fifth Amendment.
Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, that's like, that just seems like, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and I would know not to do that based on watching like lawyer shows on TV, let alone being a prosecutor that has presumably gone to law school, passed the bar, to be like, well, I don't know, like, you wouldn't talk right after he turned himself into the cops. So what does that mean?
Yeah. Is
like a pretty flagrant kind of disregard for constitutional rights, which usually doesn't fly, especially in a conservative state where you'd probably get a judge that leans a tad conservative.
Yeah, and I think if the jury returned a guilty verdict, I think the judge would have declared a mistrial.
You think?
Dude, he said something along the, and this may be an exact quote. If not, it's very close. He said there was like a day of reckoning that was going to come for the prosecution. This was like before the verdict was released. He said there was going to be a day of reckoning. Like, he for sure, I think, would have gone mistrial. I think.
So if the jury had returned a unanimous guilty charge, he would have gone, nope, mistrial.
Yeah, I really do. I'm 95%
I don't know about that.
Oh, for sure.
Ugh.
They specifically said that they specifically talked about his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. That could have been a mistrial right there. And he had told the defense that he was going to take it under advisement when they said, we want a mistrial with prejudice for what he just said. And the judge said he was going to take it under advisement. He hadn't made a decision prior to the verdict, and then prior to the verdict, he said a day of reckoning was going to come. It's like he was going to do it. I have no doubt.
Yeah, no, that was, well, and then the prosecution like brought up the guy that survived, that got shot but survived, and he all but like confirmed it was self-defense, at least in that case, where he was like, they were like, well, did he shoot you before or after you pointed your gun at him? And he was like, it was after. I had pointed my gun and then he shot me. It's like, yeah, it was just weird. Seems like you would have probably coached your witness a little better, or yeah, no, that was insane. Did you see the like LeBron James response to it?
No.
There was, when like Rittenhouse was testifying, he was like crying, and LeBron James posted a photo on Twitter.
I remember hearing something about that.
He posted a photo on Twitter, and he's like, look at how big a crybaby is. Like, those are fake. Like, those are fake tears. Like, he's not really crying. It's like, really? Like, I don't know. I thought that was weird.
Well, not long after, we got a big guilty verdict, deserved guilty verdict in the, I believe it was Ahmaud Arbery was the name?
Oh, yeah.
In the Ahmaud Arbery case, which was 3 white guys that followed a black, I think he was a teenager at the time, a black young guy, followed him around. He tried to get away from them. They continued chasing him, and then they killed him, these 3 guys, and they all got guilty charges.
Yeah, you didn't hear a lot about that in the media.
No.
It quickly got...
Yeah, I watched some of that case, too, and the prosecution was dank.
They were good.
Dude,
yeah.
so good.
To be fair, much easier case to make than the prosecution.
Yeah, I mean, they literally murdered it. That was like cold
definitely
blood.
a slam dunk case. And I remember when that first happened, and it seemed pretty clear, and I don't know if any other information came out that, it seemed just very clear. I know the third, I didn't realize there was a third guy.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first two,
Uh-huh.
and then all of a sudden I was watching some of the trial, and there was like a third person, and I was like,
the father, the son,
Oh.
and their like friend, their neighbor.
like a friend or neighbor or something. Yeah,
Dude.
no, that's insane.
You know what we haven't talked about?
What?
You may not even know about this if you haven't been watching the news, but
Mhm.
the Jessie Smollette trial.
If we
He's guilty. He's guilty, dude, on 5 out of the 6 charges. If you remember, we'll refresh your memory for the timeline, the viewers. Jessie Smollette gets attacked with a noose in the middle of the night.
It was
on like
2 a.m. in
negative,
Chicago.
Yeah, it's like
Negative
negative
10
10 degrees outside. Gets attacked with a noose by 3 supposed Trump supporters wearing MAGA hats that tie the noose around his neck and say a bunch of inappropriate things to him. He goes to the police. The police launch an investigation, a lengthy investigation, cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And the police come back, and there was, it was suspected that he had faked the hate crime. So they're preparing charges. Everyone thinks he's going to be charged.
Well, not even suspected, right? Like, didn't they find the guys that he hired?
Yes.
And they admitted to the whole thing?
Yeah, it was like background actors on his Empire show.
Yeah.
And they were black guys, by the way. They were black guys.
Yeah.
So they find these guys. Everyone believes he's going to be charged. It's widely reported. The attorney general, I believe, of the state AG, something
like the
like
DA
that.
or something.
The DA, right, decides to completely dismiss the case.
Drop the charges.
Just completely drop the charges. Really weird move. Really just kind of bizarre.
With, like, proof.
Ample evidence. A great case. A slam dunk case. Drops all charges. An independent attorney, independent investigator is assigned to the case, reopens the case, and eventually he's charged. Interesting. They go to trial. He pleads not guilty, and the jury overwhelmingly disagreed. They thought, guilty on 5 of the 6 charges, but it's suspected he won't get any jail time.
That seems great. You should get jail time for that. Like,
where I think it's like, I don't think you should get jail time for like faking a fake, misuse of the police or something like, faking a fake incident report, something like that. But the way he did it, he definitely should. They spent so much money on this investigation. It was so built up. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then he continued to maintain his innocence, which is just so weird.
Because there has to be, because how many times, like, under oath did he, like...
I think that's right. I think that's where they probably got him. What's weird is, like, if you're Jessie Smollette, you're beaten. Why not just take the guilty plea? That's so weird to me.
Well, and he still has people that, like, support him.
Yeah, dude.
And
Isn't that weird?
It's weird. Like, I've seen it that's, like, the most clear and obvious, like... there's not even any really way to flip it the other way. Like, I don't see any way for people to believe him. Yeah. And I mean, he had so many people supported him, and it's weird that the messaging didn't come out afterwards. Cause it's a big deal that, like, what he did, I think, is a huge deal that kind of sets stuff like that back, right?
Yeah.
So for him to fake it the rumor is that was because he wanted, like, a better contract on his TV show. I mean, that's just, like, flagrant abuse of, like, a real issue in the country for personal gain. But
in other news, Russia is continuing to stack troops on the border of Ukraine. It's continuing to be reported that they're going to continue to get more aggressive on the border.
Mm-hmm.
That could be really kind of crazy if Russia decides to invade Ukraine.
What? It's weird. That's weird to me. Like that feels so kind of like early 20th century, like attacking another country. It just seems like warfare is kind of changed at this point where you're not just, we're going to invade Ukraine. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, and they're, the Russian, Putin is saying essentially we have the right to defend ourselves. It's like, I don't think Ukraine's going to be overly aggressive.
Because what's the intent? Are they trying to like capture Ukraine, or do they just
so like
just a portion?
Well, it's sort of weird. So after the fall of the Soviet Union, there was like this loose organization of countries that were pre-Soviet Union, were a part of the Soviet Union, essentially the Soviet Empire, and Ukraine was a part of it. So after the fall of the Soviet Union, Ukraine got their independence and yada yada yada, but there's still Russian sentiment that Ukraine is a part of the old USSR and is therefore sort of like the Chinese Taiwan thing, where it's like Taiwan is left, they're their own country, but we still feel like we have the right to that nation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Russian sentiment is exactly the same, but a lot of people suspect it's similar. It was part of the USSR, and they have some right to it, something like that.
Did you hear? Sorry, this is totally different topic, but you bringing up Taiwan made me think of this. Like, some South American country just said, like, we don't recognize Taiwan as a country, like Honduras or something. It just totally random. I just saw it in a news story, and it was like Honduras or like Nicaragua or something no longer recognizes Taiwan as a country.
It's like,
and they support the one China policy, and I was losing my mind. I thought that was so funny.
That's kind of random.
Yeah. Like
okay.
A little press release from the the press secretary of the Honduran president. It's like, so Taiwan, sorry, you're not real anymore. So how were they real before? Like, what made you change your mind?
That's weird. That's really weird.
Yeah. That would be. Do you think it'll escalate more though in like Ukraine, or do you think it like calms down? I just can't imagine like an actual invasion.
I can imagine an actual invasion. But I think if they were to do it, it would be unwise, because
definitely
Russia's like in a really weird position right now. They're like kind of the opposite of China, where China is like instead of going down and having to reclaim power, like trying to do weird things to grasp for power, China is like rapidly growing, and they're just taking everything in its path.
Mm-hmm.
Russia's has a deteriorating military equipment. Their economy is not growing nearly as quickly as it used to. They've made some good investments in the energy sector, but Russia, it would be weird for them to do this and just be completely economically just collapse. I mean, there would be unreal economic repercussions from the West.
They don't they don't have enough money for sustained conflict with like Western, like the West.
They don't, right? And so I guess that's what's kind of weird is like, and if you're China, it's like, I can't imagine that the Chinese government views that favorably. Like a big power right above you, not a world power, but not anymore at least, but this giant power taking over, Ukraine, and just taking that country and then bordering with, I believe Ukraine borders China.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it does. Regardless, it just seems like that would be weird.
Like a power grab right on your border can't feel great if you're China, because you're like,
so I just can't imagine that Russia walks away a winner from this, even if they were to successfully take Ukraine. It's like, I don't see how they could win.
It'd be kind of weird if a country got like taken over. It's been a long time since.
It's been a very long time.
That's happened,
dude. And what's scary is like, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the Russian government has made huge investments in like Western European energy, specifically in Germany. Like I think Germany's power may be entirely Russian, something like that. Almost all of their natural gas is entirely supplied by Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be pretty weird because if the West were to go after them economically, I guess hypothetically Russia could just literally turn off the gas.
Just sorry, Germany.
Yeah.
No heating
No.
for you in the winters.
Ooh, Angela Merkel is no longer chancellor.
Has she stepped down yet?
She's gone. She's like retired or something. There's
Has
a new
she
guy.
has she been there like our entire
16 years.
so pretty much our
Since we
entire
were super
lifetimes? Yeah.
She was like, dude, she was probably the most powerful
She was the
woman.
one stalwart in my life.
She was probably,
Angela Merkel.
Yeah. She was probably the most powerful woman in the world, right? Can you think of a more influential woman?
You want to know what's funny? I literally, like a week ago, saw an article about the 100 most powerful women in the world, and it was nuts. Because the first one was Mackenzie Bezos.
Oh.
Or Mackenzie Scott, whatever, like, because they got divorced. And then the second one was, like, Melinda Gates. It was weird. Kamala Harris was, like, 7th. Because I was looking for something like that, and everyone responding in the comments was like, this seems weird that like the most powerful are all just like wealthy divorcees of
Yeah.
like Grimes,
Yeah.
divorced from Elon Musk.
No.
Yeah.
Angela Merkel was the most powerful woman, and now she's gone. It's pretty weird. It'll be interesting to see what the next chancellor does.
Yeah. Yep. We want to wrap this one up?
That's it? We're done? We're done with the
It's
politics
been a while.
podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
Whatever.
wrap it up.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.